5 seconds. Prepare yourself. Prepare yourself.
You are now meeting the Grand Master.
What's up and what's going on, fellow fanatics, and what's going on, Recast Nation? I wanted to come in here really quick and give you guys some news on what could potentially be the future for T'Challa and the Black Panther franchise within the MCU. This news, of course, take it with a massive grain of salt. Any news that does not come directly from Marvel Studios, always take it with a massive grain of salt. Now, this news is coming from a trusted source, a source that is close to Marvel, but still we want to take this with a massive grain of salt. But before we get into that news, I wanted to thank Buckmeister for all the brilliant work that he does on Twitter day in and day out for the Recast T'Challa movement. And I also want to thank him for the conversation, the space he created today for this conversation to take root. Before I get into those rumors, I also wanted to just kind of go in here on, the things that we've been saying about T'Challa, the importance of T'Challa, why this character matters, why this character should be on screen. We've been saying since Marvel made the decision that they made in 2020 when Kevin Feige got up at D23 and said that they are not going to recast the character due to X, Y, and Z, but obviously due to wanting, the overall thing that they had said was it was out of respect for Chadwick Boseman, that they wanted to honor Chadwick Boseman, and in doing so they weren't going to recast the character of T'Challa, a character that has been a fictional character since the Civil Rights Movement, a character long before Chadwick Boseman, and what Chadwick Boseman understood, he wanted that same character to continue long after himself. There are several videos of Chadwick Boseman discussing how he would have liked the character to continue, how the character was important, X, Y, and Z. These are things that we've talked about in previous videos. Not what we're here for today, though. I just wanted to kind of give a little TLDR on that part there. But when it comes to the future of T'Challa, these are some of the things that were told to me. And again, before I get into them, take these with a massive grain of salt. I also did want to say this briefly. Yesterday, Twitter was on fire. Why was Twitter on fire? Because the X-Men 97 finale aired, and there were several things to discuss amongst, other fans about what happened in the finale. But one of the things that took root on Twitter, one of the things that actually started trending on Twitter was the conversation of T'Challa in X-Men 97. If you've been here, if you've had these conversations with me or my co-host or this community, or you follow myself on Twitter, you would have seen maybe about a week or two ago, I had tweeted Bo DeMeo and I asked him, with T'Challa's appearance in the original 92 series, is it possible with the UN being mentioned that we could see T'Challa in any cameo form, since we saw Spider-Man? That's what it was. I think it was the episode that we saw Spider-Man. I asked, is it a possibility that we could possibly see T'Challa show up in the show? To where his reply to me didn't make sense to me then, but I cling to it as, oh, there's hope, when he said, ain't that funny? It didn't make sense to me then, but it then made sense to me after I saw last night's episode of X-Men 97. When we all saw Wakanda, the Black Panther, and the Dora Milaje pop up, when you had the Sentinels, the Prime Sentinels outside of the window, what looked like T'Challa, I'm sure, like myself, a lot of you jumped up and were excited to have seen your character back on screen in some form, whether it be live action, animation, or what have you. So we've gotten to see that. I jumped out of my bed and I was happy. I was, excited. I was like, oh, this is dope. We're getting to see the king back on his throne. Just for seconds later, to be disappointed to hear Steve Rogers call the Black Panther, and I didn't need Steve Rogers to call him T'Chaka for me to know that that was not T'Challa that we were looking at on the screen with the gray hair and everything else like that. It seems as if they molded that animation style off of Chadwick Boseman also. Again, another conversation, not why we're here. But a lot of people online, even people that are not prominent recasters, or not people that are, having the conversations all the time, or maybe I've even seen people that were going against the recast crowd at one time that were tweeting yesterday things like, I understood the reasoning behind not wanting to recast T'Challa out of respect for Chadwick Boseman, But it makes no sense for you not to use T'Challa in animation. Why are you attaching this fictional character to this real person's death? Why are you killing T'Challa with Chadwick Boseman, respectfully to Chadwick Boseman? Why are you killing this character with Chadwick Boseman? A lot of people's eyes were opened yesterday. I think a shift was made yesterday in the conversation of recast T'Challa. Of course, there are still some people out there that aren't seeing it that way, that are still trying to say that this is why Marvel's doing this, is X, Y, and Z, or, you got your T'Challa in this form or whatever fashion it may be. But there were still a lot of people that I think minds were changed yesterday after seeing, because it does not make sense. And I don't care who you are. I don't care, how you try to flip it or spin it. It does not make sense for every other character that we've seen to be in the continuity of the 90s shows, but you don't see T'Challa. T'Challa was in the X-Men 97 series when Magneto, I believe it was season 5. Don't quote me on that. It might have been season 4, season 5. But Magneto was transporting mutants from Africa, and we saw T'Challa. He didn't speak, but we saw T'Challa watching this take place. We've also seen T'Challa in the Fantastic Four show, and I've seen some people on Twitter trying to say, oh, that's a different universe, and that's a different thing. No, it's not. Stop it. The mental gymnastics that you're doing to try to make T'Challa obsolete, stop it. It does not make sense, and you look silly. What it is, all of these shows are in continuity with one another, and you're not just arguing with me about that. You are now arguing with Marvel Studios. Executive producer Brad Winterbaum came out in an interview with Screen Crush, I believe it was, and he talked about this, and he said specifically the 90s shows are all the 90s shows are in continuity with one another. The cameos that you're seeing, they're all in continuity with one another, and it's all picking up from the 92 X-Men series.
X-Men 97 fits directly into the continuity of the 90s animated shows. And as you know, there were some awesome crossovers, most notably with Spider-Man. I will say that, if you remember the awesome cameos from the original show, you're going to be happy in X-Men 97 without going into spoiler territory.
Oh,
it's an exciting timeline to explore that 90s world.
Let's take ourselves back to D23 when they said they were giving us this series. Marvel stated then that this is going to pick up exactly where 92 left off. So the fact that you're now arguing with Marvel and doing the mental gymnastics that you're doing to try to make this make sense doesn't make sense. T'Challa should have been there with his peers. T'Chaka would not be peers with Peter Parker. T'Chaka would also not be peers with Reed Richards, with Tony Stark, maybe with Steve Rogers. I'll give you that one, because Steve, the story of Steve and everything like that, sure, okay. But everyone else, those are not T'Chaka's peers. Those are T'Challa's peers. And again, the mental gymnastics is crazy. It's crazy. But we're going to digress on that as well. That is what the conversation was yesterday on Twitter. There were so many people trying to defend it. There were so many people trying to say why T'Challa should have been there. There were the recast crowd members saying, what we've been saying for the past almost 3 years now. And then now you've got another element where all these people that are starting to wake up and starting to realize this does not make any sense. Why are you trying to erase T'Challa? And I've even seen people saying, well, Marvel's not trying to erase T'Challa. He's in this new Rivals video game. You do realize, though, that is, and correct me again if I'm wrong in the comments. I believe someone had told me, because I don't play these Marvel games on phones or any type of phone game, but someone had said to me that it was a Japanese or Asian game or something like that. So if that is true, I believe they had went on to say something like, that's the reason why T'Challa and Storm and all these characters are done correctly, because this is not under the thumb of Marvel. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't play those games. However, when it comes to T'Challa being in Marvel or the MCU or anything like that, we've seen them take away T'Challa within Wakanda Forever. That happened when we watched the Morbid funeral, or the retelling of Chadwick Boseman's death, but we had to pay for it this time. That was also very strange. They took T'Challa away there. We've also seen them starting to take a T'Challa what seems to be away in animation. We've seen them take T'Challa away what seems to be in some of these other video games. And I understand that this video game, I believe it's the 1943, The Flags of Our Fathers video game that's off the comic there, where it's Azuri and it's T'Challa's grandfather with with Captain America, I'll give you that, because the time period, that makes sense, sure. Even the What If episode where T'Chaka showed up and was with the Avengers, that makes sense, the time period, sure. But when you are now going out of your way to take out T'Challa in a time period that is canonical with where he should be, that does not make sense. We've even the newest video game, and I know there are some of you holding out hope, and you should, because we don't have all the details. But from what I'm seeing about it right now, the newest video game that's being developed about T'Challa, about the Black Panther, it's not using T'Challa's name, it's not anything like that. So we don't know if you're going to be T'Challa, if you're going to be someone else, if you're going to be a we don't know. It seems like every time T'Challa gets mentioned, he's not being used, but he is also at the same time being used. I don't want to dismiss that, because he is being sold in, I collect Marvel Legends action figures. It is impossible to find one on the shelf. You can find all the others if he comes out with a wave, or if he comes out with someone else like that. You can find those others, but you won't find the T'Challa character. T'Challa himself does sell, and Marvel is aware of that. I'm sure they do know that. 1.3 billion speaks for itself. T'Challa sells. We understand that. So I've seen those things where it seems like he's being erased, or not. Seems like they're wanting to shelf T'Challa so much more. And maybe, and I've been saying for, one of the last videos we did, I had said that, you're not going to get a T'Challa. The next time you might get T'Challa would be possibly Secret Wars, which has been rumored before. From My Time to Shine Hello, I think also from Daniel RPK and some others, they had mentioned that a T'Challa could show up, or would show up within the multiversal saga during Secret Wars. And I've humored that. I've said, okay, that's very, very, very possible, obviously, because this is the multiversal saga. I still didn't know if it was something that was going to be done. I know there were some people saying, oh, I hope they bring in a variant and that variant stays and sticks. And I was the one saying I definitely don't see them doing that. And the reason I said those things was because of everything that we watched in Wakanda Forever. Why would Marvel then unravel everything that they did in Wakanda Forever, and the hole that they dug, the business they stood on, that they doubled down on that business? Why would they want to undo that? And it's simple, because they are starting to realize now, and I at the time, I was like, they're not going to do that, they weren't going to do that, whatever. And again, I still don't know that Marvel's going to do that, because what the news I'm about to give you is not official from Marvel Studios. So again, grain of salt. So this news that I'm about to give you now is coming from, again, a source over at Marvel Studios, someone that works for Marvel Studios. And this is what is being told to us. A source over at Marvel Studios has said that Bob Iger has put in a secret mandate that T'Challa must be recasted. And this is a secret mandate, I guess, over with everyone over at Marvel Studios, the executives, Kevin Feige, everyone involved, that T'Challa needs to be recasted. Now, if you take yourself back to the video I think we did maybe 2-3 weeks ago, I said, maybe from a business standpoint, I said, I don't know Robert. I don't know Robert at all, but maybe from a business standpoint, he understands that T'Challa sells. And in order for T'Challa to sell, he's got to be on screen. He had also just said back in February of this year, Disney CEO Bob Iger announced that Marvel Studios will focus on establishing characters and franchises such as the Avengers, X-Men, and Spider-Man to strengthen the MCU's reception. This may mean Marvel Studios will shift focus away from titles centered around new characters or cancel those projects altogether. In short, sequels and crossovers are more likely than spin-offs and original stories now. And what a lot of us took from that, and what Robert was saying from that, is that he was saying that they're going to put more emphasis on characters that matter, characters that sell, characters that are already household names. T'Challa, because of the $1.3 billion he lined Marvel and Disney's pockets with, became a household name. That was evident from all of the many things that we were seeing after the first BP film. It wasn't just a cultural movement. It was definitely a strong cultural movement. But that first BP film was not just a cultural movement. That was the world felt the first BP film. As Chadwick Boseman put it in one of the interviews he did, there weren't just little Black Panthers. There were little white Panthers, little Asian Panthers running around. Other people. I remember there being articles going around of little white kids being teased at school because they wanted to be the Black Panther for Halloween. That's how much this character impacted the nation, the world, not just our culture, not just Black culture, but the world. So to say that he is not a household name, you'd be wrong. He is a household name. T'Challa the Black Panther is a household name the same way that Iron Man is, the same way that Spider-Man is, the same way that Captain America is. I can promise you, because of the MCU and because of the film that was introduced in 2016, when fans saw the Black Panther T'Challa, or I'm sorry, T'Chaka, but at the time we thought T'Challa on screen for X-Men 97, I'm sure, like myself, had the same reaction, like, oh, dope, there's the Black Panther, there's T'Challa. So yeah, he's a household name, and he definitely sells. And I'm sure, as I said in that video 2-3 weeks ago, I don't know if maybe from a business standpoint, from a CEO standpoint, I'm sure Robert understands that he does sell. And knowing that he sells is why T'Challa needs to be back on screen. So when I'm hearing from that source that Bob Iger is putting out a secret mandate that T'Challa must be recasted, it takes me back to, again, what I was saying. He might actually maybe not understand it from a cultural standpoint, not understand it from a Black Power standpoint, why we want T'Challa back on screen, but he can understand it from a money standpoint, from a business standpoint. Then they went on to say in this, the source went on to tell me that they are trying to find a way, get this, again, grain of salt, everything. Marvel is trying to find a way to do away with the child. They do not want to do Toussaint, TJ, to child. They don't want to do it anymore. And it never should have been done from the beginning. From the beginning, it was always an emotional decision. That entire BP2 film was rooted in emotion. And I'm not saying that it was misplaced emotion. It was misplaced emotion when it came to the script, when it came to it being within a Marvel film, it was misplaced emotion, but I'm not saying that their emotion was not valid. I will never say that. As I've said many times, grief has no expiration date. Ryan Coogler, Letitia Wright, Lupita, Winston, Denai, every single person involved with the Black Panther films, the Black Panther franchise within Marvel Studios, had a right to feel the way that they felt. They just did not have a right to take those feelings and inflict those feelings onto a film for viewers' entertainment. We did not want to go sit and mourn. We mourned in 2020. We mourned when we heard. We did not want to go sit and watch Chadwick's morbid retelling of his death on screen, but for viewers' entertainment in a Marvel Studios movie form. That's not something that we wanted to go and watch. So when I'm sitting here, hearing that, all the things about they're trying to find a way to do away with the child. That makes sense to me. Again, the child should have never been done. So then he goes on to say in the source that they also want to do a reboot of the franchise. Now, again, for me, that makes sense. We've talked about this as well. With there being a soft reboot, and I talked about this in the last video from 2 to 3 weeks ago, with there being the rumors of there being a soft reboot in Marvel Studios, it is very possible because that is the way that you're going to get your X-Men. That's the way the X-Men are coming into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That is the way that the Fantastic Four are coming into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So it's very possible that that's the way that we could get other properties, even though there is a Black Panther franchise that already exists, even though it's fucked up and corrupted and everything like that in the MCU already. Your mileage may vary, that's what I think. You still could possibly, I don't know how they could explain it, but get maybe, again, I've seen it explained this way, to where the Wakanda, the Wakanda of that universe where this T'Challa would come from would be destroyed, and maybe this T'Challa would come in and be the king of this Wakanda. I don't know. I personally don't like that one. I'm just giving you an example. So that is something that we could be seeing with this rumor of the reboot, with the source saying that they are definitely wanting to reboot the Black Panther franchise. And if they do reboot the Black Panther franchise, again, that's something I've talked about as well. I've said in previous videos, everyone needs to go. And again, that's not me saying I dislike Letitia Wright. I don't think, as I've said before, she is not a box office sell. She's not a box office grab like that. Letitia Wright leading a film, as you saw in Wakanda Forever, is not that box office pool. I like Letitia. I love Denai. I like Lupita. I like Winston Duke. I like Ryan Coogler. I don't dislike anyone involved, or I don't dislike them even for the feeling the way that they felt. That's valid. But because they feel the way that they feel, because Ryan Coogler has said some of the things that he has said in interviews before, that is the reason why all of them have to go. You're too attached to Chadwick Boseman. Ryan Coogler did an interview back in November. Let me see when that was. That was back in November 8th, 2022 on the official Black Panther podcast. Ryan Coogler did an interview where he said he believes someone else being T'Challa lacks the necessary truth. And if you still are feeling that way, because I'm assuming he would still feel that way, and the reason I say that is because if this is your friend, if Chadwick Boseman is your friend and you're as close to him as you say you are, then he's still going to feel that way. It's going to lack the necessary truth. He went on to say in that interview that anybody that they would have brought in, it wouldn't have felt right. It wouldn't have felt real, and they wouldn't have been able to do their jobs. This is coming from his mouth, and I'll play that interview here.
And the moment that I stop believing in what I'm doing, whatever end product that I'm putting out is cooked. Like, it's done. It has to be truthful for me. And if there's any element of nope, for me, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, in the process, it's my job to weed that out so that I have a fighting chance of putting something out in front of the audience that the audience can believe and not be taken out of for 2 hours. You know what I'm saying? While they eating their popcorn and next to strangers, or while they at the house and their kids is doing X, Y, and Z, they have to believe in some kernel of the truth that's happening on that screen. You know what I'm saying? And my truth is Chad was gone from the physical sense. He wasn't walking through that door. And in the world that we created over the years, he was the guy. And for somebody else to be him, you know what I mean? For us in the world that we created, we wouldn't have believed it. No matter how good the actor was, no matter how, you know what I'm saying? It would have been lacking the necessary truth for us to do a good job. And the truth is the well that we pull from as artists. You know, our truth was lost, you know?
So all those things come together when it comes to a reboot. That, again, makes sense. Everybody's got to go. That includes Ryan Coogler as the director. Ryan would have to go. Everyone involved, and you start fresh and bring in a brand new cast, a brand new crew. That's not still hurting by the loss of a friend, by the loss of a brother, and validly so. Again, as I've said before though, grief has no timestamp, but I've used this example. If something tragic happens in my life, and for those of you that know, I coach AAU basketball. I lost 2 of my boys in car accidents, and my job understood that. I mourned, I grieved. But at some point in time, after I mourned and I grieved and I had that time off from work, my job was calling me asking, when are you coming back to work? And when I got back to work, everyone still comforted me. Everyone asked me how I was doing. But when I sat down at my desk, I had all those things that I had to make up from my time off. And work was work as usual. Business was business as usual. My boss was still my boss. My coworkers were still my coworkers. My workload was still my workload. I still had a job to do. Even though these are actors and actresses, that is the profession you chose. So since that profession you chose, you still have a job to do. And if you cannot put your grief aside to do that job, then you should be removed from said job. That's no disrespect on them. That's not me being insensitive. That's me looking and from a business standpoint that a job still has to be done. All right. So this whole reboot idea, that does make sense to me because that's something we've talked about before. Reboot the franchise. Everybody's got to go. He went on to share with me, again, this is still coming from everything that I'm saying is coming from the source here. Went on to share, which I've talked about before. I've defended before. People have come at me before for defending this before. And again, grain of salt, this all could be some bullshit. It could be wrong. I don't know. Kevin Feige had nothing to do with the decision of not recasting T'Challa. Oh, I just made a lot of people mad. Some people probably just left. Kevin Feige had nothing to do with not recasting T'Challa. We've seen the video, and I will put that here as well.
What are the chances we see the character of T'Challa in the MCU moving forward? And what is it like having to balance loyalty to a fan base and to a performer as regal and elegant as Chadwick Boseman, along with the future of that franchise, that character, and of Wakanda?
Yeah. It's a great question. I will say the chances that you see T'Challa in I'm not hedging my bets. I'm being quite honest. T'Challa you will not see T'Challa in the MCU 616 universe. We couldn't do it. I mean, I will say when Chad passed, it was a real conversation we had with Coogler about what do we do. And it was a fast conversation. It wasn't weeks, it was minutes of we have to figure out how to move this franchise on without that character, because I think we all feel so much of T'Challa in the MCU on the screen, not in comics, right? Is tied to Chadwick's performance, is what he brought to that role, both on and off screen, I would argue. So as hard as it is narratively to figure out what to do, because it's a big hole, at no point did we consider recasting him. So the challenge for Black Panther Wakanda Forever is telling a story without T'Challa. And I think it's a challenge we're up for, and obviously we're in the middle of it and we're figuring it out. And it's so far, I think what we're getting is great. But the challenge of the movie, I think, is to entertain people, but there will be a level of, I think, catharsis in people coming back to this universe without that guy, because that guy and that universe to me are one and the same. So as filmmakers and storytellers, you have to figure out how people are going to feel going into your movie and what you want that movie to say about that guy who's not going to be in your movie.
Well, wow. We've seen the video of Nate Moore having the conversation with Van, telling him that I'm not going to hedge my bets. You won't see T'Challa in the 616 universe. We decided within seconds that we weren't going to recast him. Him and Ryan decided within seconds that they were not going to recast the character. Kevin Feige was just the president of the studio that stood on the stage at D23 that made the announcement of the decision that was made in the quiet quarter secretly in seconds with Nate Moore and Ryan Coogler. But Kevin Feige, as he stated, had nothing to do with the not recasting of T'Challa. Again, we've seen the video. We've all seen the video of Nate Moore saying it took them seconds to decide not to recast a character that put $1.3 billion in your pockets over an emotional decision. He went on to say, a female actress that I do not have permission to give the name of this female actress. I know who it is, but I do not have the permission to give the name of the female actress. A female actress is being eyed as Storm for this reboot for Black Panther 3, for what they are wanting to do. A female actress is being eyed, but it is a package deal with this female actress. Now I can name, obviously he is on the screen here, I can name who they want, and that is Damson Idris. Damson Idris is who they want to play Black Panther. When I heard this, I was kind of, again, rumors, grain of salt, but it felt good to have some hope, damn it. It felt good to have some hope in the recast crowd, because I've been saying for the longest, I have no hope. I can't give you any type of hope for what they're going to do with this franchise in the future, but with the news I was given today, I was given hope. This was an adrenaline rush. When I heard Damson Idris, that's one of my picks. He's not my top picks, but he's one of my top 3 picks that I'm like, I would love to have Damson Idris come in here. The swagger that Damson Idris has, the charm. I think that he's a great actor as well. He did the interview on the podcast where he was asked his opinions on, or I don't think he was so much asked, where he was so much told in the podcast that he would be a good replacement for T'Challa, or for Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa in the MCU. And I will also play that interview where he said that.
Right now, there's a call for you to replace Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa. I know about it because I signed up to agree that you should.
Oh,
Black
man.
Panther should not die. I know that we want to honor Chadwick Boseman, but you got to keep that character. Where else do we see that level of superhero that comes out of Africa? And then people are like, not a British act. I'm like, but he's African. He's Nigerian. Can
They just don't want me to act at all, man.
They don't want you to eat, brother. So how do you, and I know you're sensitive to it, because I can see you're like, I'm not trying to have no problems here. But you do know that there is this chasm that people want, this wedge, whether it's Daniel Kaluuya or not David Yellow and or Chill 12. I can't say his name either. Jafor.
Yeah.
How do you navigate those spaces when people are saying to you don't belong here?
It's disheartening, because on one hand, I'm 30 years old, and from birth, all I've been taught is African American history in school. I wasn't taught Black British history. I was learning about Malcolm.
Pause. How? Who? What school did you go to? Because we don't learn that here in America. We got this CRT problem right now. They don't want us to learn anything.
We learned about Malcolm X. We learned about Martin Luther King. And we learned about African leaders too, Mandela and everyone. So we were just well versed on a global scale of what Black people have contributed to the world, and they've contributed a lot. My knowledge goes back all the way to Oluwadu Equiano, who was one of the first playwrights that no one talks about, who was an African slave that sold rum and bought his freedom, and then fought for the abolishment of slavery, and was one of the first Black writers, and won a bunch of awards. Like, my history goes so far back. So I hope the people that say these things travel, because travel is the cure to all ignorance. And, if you go to where I came up in London, you'll understand that it ain't next to Buckingham Palace. If you go to Africa, you're going to see people in complete turmoil. And we're not comparing traumas. We're trying to create unity. We're stronger together. And that's not why I play characters that are American. I play characters that are American because America is very, very dope. America is amazing. I love America. The majority of my adulthood has been in America. And I just feel like we're stronger together, and, to all those out there that are listening who oppose what I'm saying, understand, man, I'm fighting for everyone that looks like me, man. I'm fighting for everyone, but more specifically, I'm fighting for everyone that looks like me. I'm fighting for everyone. I'm trying to push us forward. And when I'm in rooms with people who are moguls, who are bosses, I'm not talking about the betterment of Black British culture. I'm not talking about the betterment of African culture. I'm talking about the betterment of everyone. I'm trying to push everyone forward so that we could collaborate. And when we do, we see what happens. Everyone in Black Panther wasn't American. That movie made billions of dollars. That's a sign. And that's what we need to keep fighting for. That's what we need to keep pushing for. And that's why I do what I do.
I'm gonna let that sit for a minute.
But he talked about all those things. And it would be dope to see Damson Idris as Black Panther. It would also be dope to have Storm with T'Challa. That is something we've all been saying we want to see. We want to see Storm with T'Challa. We want to see this Omega level mutant goddess be the queen of Wakanda alongside her strong, powerful Black King. We would love to see that, especially as a Black Panther fan, as a huge Storm fan. That's something I would love to see. And with the rumors, I'm gonna kind of shift it here really quick. Gonna go back to those X-Men rumors. With the rumors that we had a few days ago of Janelle Monáe, this is all coming from My Time to Shine Hello. These rumors now. My Time to Shine Hello had tweeted out that Janelle Monáe was being looked at by Marvel Studios to be Storm in the MCU. And when I saw that, I was like, nothing against Janelle Monáe personally. I just don't see the sister as Storm. I don't see the sister as that great of an actress to be Storm. She doesn't have what it takes, in my opinion, to pull off being Storm. That's a big job. That's a big job. And to me, Janelle Monáe is not that sister. But again, nothing against Janelle. I think that whether you're high or low, tipping on the tightrope, she does a great job in everything else she does. But she's not Storm. But they also talked about in those X-Men rumors that they wanted Ryan Coogler to that My Time to Shine Hello had put out there that Marvel Studios was looking to Ryan Coogler to direct the X-Men. And not only to direct the X-Men, that he was also coming back to direct Black Panther 3. And with all those rumors that we were talking about, with all that, we do know that the X-Men, and this is all rumored too, this is coming from Daniel RPK, I believe, that the X-Men are rumored to be coming from a different universe, just like the Fantastic Four. So the X-Men that we saw, the X-Men universe that we saw at the end of the Marvels, where Monica currently is, that is rumored to be the X-Men universe that is going to be destroyed, and the X-Men are going to come into, those X-Men are going to come into our universe and be our mainstay X-Men within the MCU. So, if that's possible, there is a working theory out there that within that X-Men universe, that T'Challa could be in that universe, and T'Challa and Storm could already be married in that universe. And whenever that universe is destroyed and Storm is brought over, T'Challa is brought over. Maybe that's how you get your T'Challa and Storm within the MCU, back proper, son of T'Chaka, not this T'Child bastard that they got running around, but the T'Challa, son of T'Chaka, back on the screen. So that is a working theory of something that I've seen out there from a few different people, a working theory that could work for bringing T'Challa and Storm in, with the rumor of the X-Men being from a different universe, and that's how you bring in Storm. So the actress that they want to play Storm, it would be, again, a package deal with Damson Idris. And I think that is a great pick. It's not, it may not be the person you all wanted or whatever, but I think we can all agree Damson would be phenomenal as T'Challa. The source also went on to say that all the work that we are doing as the recast crowd, for those people out there that says, oh, you guys are so embarrassing, oh, you guys are so annoying, oh, the recast crowd is the reason of this, the recast crowd is the reason is that. The recast crowd is the reason that Marvel is making the decision that they're making right now to put the king back on his throne, because the recast crowd is doing the work out here as far as keeping the conversation going, spreading the importance, dismantling misinformation of the character, or misinformation of who the character is. The recast crowd is the one that is carrying the conversation, and Marvel pays attention to that. From what the source was telling me, their social media team watches the YouTube videos. I don't know if they watch mine, but they damn sure are watching E-Man's. They're watching the bigger channels. The people that are having these conversations, they're damn sure paying attention, as from what the source told me, to these Twitter threads on conversations. They're damn sure paying attention, and with them paying attention to all that is what has led Bob Iger to say, we've got to put him back on. We got to get the character back on the screen. Not just this character, again, putting emphasis on all the importance of the mainstay characters, but putting T'Challa back on the screen. So they are paying attention. And with us knowing that they're paying attention, my Recast Nation out there that's watching, go even harder on the recast. Go even harder on your videos if you're a content creator. If you're making the TikToks, go harder on that. If you're making the YouTube shorts, go harder on that. Show Marvel what we really want. Show them that why this character is important. We've got to show them, and they are paying attention. They are watching. Again, grain of salt, but from what I'm being told, they are watching. The source goes on to say they are, and I've talked about this as well. You know, was it My Time to Shine? I know Rob Liefeld had said that, I think it was him, that said that the Deadpool and Wolverine is going to save the MCU. It is the film that's going to save the MCU. And I have said ever since, that statement was made, it's not the film that's going to save the MCU. Deadpool and Wolverine was going to be a good film, whether it was a part of the MCU or not. Now, Deadpool 3, before it was even Deadpool and Wolverine, Deadpool 3 was going to be a good time, whether it was a part of the MCU or it was not a part of the MCU. Both films, in my opinion, are good films. I think that Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool is great, and he's the pool that's going to get asses in the seats when it comes to ticket sales anyway. The character, he does a phenomenal job as the character. So with or without the MCU, Deadpool was going to do what Deadpool does. Now, adding Wolverine and everything to it, the multiversal saga, adding it to the MCU, that just adds even more to it. But Deadpool was going to do what it was going to do regardless. I've said the film that's going to save the MCU, that's going to test, to put the MCU to the real test, is going to be Captain America 4. Captain America 4. And the reason I say that is because you've now got Anthony Mackie, Sam Wilson, who is going to be donning that role of Cap. And with him donning that role of Cap, that's got to be, one, convincing enough, and people have got to be wanting to see that. And then, again, I could be biased just because I don't like Anthony Mackie, as I don't think, like Letitia Wright, he's a leading box office sell. I don't think that he is. But from what we heard, from the things that were shown at, was it CinemaCon? At CinemaCon for Brave New World, it was action-packed. Some people were even comparing it to The Winter Soldier, which is some big shoes to fill, but we will see when that comes around. I've said that that's the film that's going to be the film that really tests Marvel to, is Marvel back? And I say all that to say, because the source says that they are watching the success of director Julius Ona. Julius Ona is directing Brave New World, or Captain America 4 Brave New World. He was put on director a while back. We've seen the behind the scenes photos of him with Anthony Mackie and things like that. So Julius Ona is the director for Brave New World. And the reason they're watching the success of Julius Ona is because they potentially want him to come and helm their Black Panther 3 film. And now you might be thinking, well, what about Ryan? What about Ryan? As I said in a tweet a few days ago, I had watched the Hot Mic podcast of John Roca, and Jeff Snyder was on that podcast to where Jeff Snyder was asked if he thought Ryan Coogler was going to be back on the Black Panther. And he said, no, he didn't. He didn't think that Ryan Coogler was going to be back, helming the Black Panther film. And if all these things that I've said in this video are to be believed and are true, it sounds to me like Marvel is trying to pivot. They are trying to do away with to go a different route, to go a different story. And it makes sense that Marvel will be trying to pivot. We've been seeing Marvel pivot on several different decisions, even outside of the Black Panther franchise within the MCU, to make shit make sense, to win back the audience. They're having to make the tough pivots. And this is a pivot that they are having to make. And it seems like, again, if these things are to be believed, that they are pivoting away from Ryan Coogler, that they do not want him attached to the Black Panther film. And again, the reason I say that he shouldn't be, and maybe this is Marvel's thinking too, is because it would be picking up the story of where he left off. And as you heard in the interview that I played earlier, he's still, I'm sure if he is really friends and loves Chad the way he does, there's no way you can come back into this. There's no way you can do a Black Panther 3 and feel anything but sadness when doing this, feel anything but, thinking about Chad, thinking about the moments you had when filming the first Black Panther film. So I don't think he should be attached, and maybe this is Marvel's thinking as well. Maybe this is why they are looking at director Julius Ona to come in and helm this film, and they're looking and waiting to see how good is Brave New World going to do? How good a director is Julius Ona? Can we trust him with this pivot that we're trying to make for Black Panther 3? So possibly, if this is to be believed, if this is a successful film that he has with Sam Wilson, a black character, if he can take this black character that no one, no offense, really gives a flying shit about right now and makes us somehow care about this man, then maybe Marvel's going to trust him with the black character. That's not a derivative character. That's not the sidekick. Maybe they're going to trust him with that. So that is possible. I do somewhat believe that, because again, the interview that I will play here that Jeff Snyder did with John Roca and what he was saying.
But as far as Coogler goes, no, I don't want to see him spending time on this. No, I want to see Ryan Coogler making original movies. Period.
So you don't want to, but he's going to be doing Black Panther 3, don't you think? No, you don't think he's going to do Black Panther 3 either. You think this is all a bullshit rumor?
Yeah.
But the source came back and said a few more things. And the few other things that he was mentioning were that they want to use the multiverse to undo the mess that they have created. Obviously, that is what's being done right now with a lot of things within the MCU. The multiverse is going to be the scapegoat for a lot of the dumbass decisions that were made in Phase 4. The emotional decisions made within Phase 4. You know, Marvel is not even hiding it anymore. Kevin Feige came out and said that we're the underdogs again, and we like being the underdogs so we can exceed expectations and excite. Sean Levy, who is director for Deadpool 3, came out and said that you would have to be under a rock to not know that Marvel has not been the Marvel that they used to be. These are all quotes as of 2-3 weeks ago. So it's no secret that Marvel is not the same Marvel, that Marvel's not in the same place. So yes, they're using the multiverse to undo and fix a lot of the shit that they fucked up. And that being, whether you see it or not, that is the Black Panther franchise. And that is one of the only ways to fix. It's not the only way. There are plenty of ways that this could be fixed, but that is one of the only ways to fix this, with the multiverse. The source went on to say, And I do want to say this too, to kind of backtrack on the Ryan Coogler being too attached to Chadwick Boseman and things like that. When he was speaking with the Hollywood Reporter, this was back in November, I believe. Also, when we were doing, this was kind of after the film. Actually, this was after the film. This was when he was discussing what the film. Yes, this is when he was discussing what the film would have been if Chadwick Boseman would have still been alive, because as we all know, Chadwick Boseman made critiques to the script. These are things that Ryan Coogler has discussed. You can go look them up. If you don't believe me, you can go look them up. He has discussed these things and said that, Chadwick Boseman did make critiques to the script. He read the script. There were things he wanted. There were places he wanted this character to go, the places he wanted this franchise to go, and things like that. And before I get into what the Hollywood Reporter said and what Ryan Coogler was saying in that article, from what the source was telling me, Chadwick Boseman had plans, in which we know he had plans, but this is news to me. He had other plans that Ryan Coogler did not share in that interview. Chadwick Boseman had plans for the future of the franchise. He wanted Nicole Bear, if I'm saying her last name correctly. She is the actress that plays his wife in 42. She plays Rachel Robinson. He wanted her, and him and her had talked about it, her to come over and play Storm in future franchise and future films of him as Black Panther. And again, beautiful actress, beautiful woman. That's who he wanted to come in and play Storm. She would not have been my pick as Storm, but I'm just telling you what Chad wanted. These are things that he had discussions and plans for the future of the Black Panther franchise. So again, if I'm looking at Ryan Coogler here, and if you have done interviews saying that you've done, you worked on the script together with Chad, he made critiques, he read the script, and the only way that Nate Moore, Ryan Coogler could come to honoring Chadwick Boseman was retelling his death on screen instead of taking the final piece of work that he worked on with Marvel, taking those final pieces of ideas that he had and bringing those ideas to life. That, to me, in my opinion, would have been a better way to honor Chadwick Boseman. Instead of taking a character that he wanted to continue, stories that he wanted to tell, burying that character alongside him, that was disrespectful to me. That was the more disrespectful thing than us coming in saying recast the character. So if that is to be believed, and these are things that Chadwick Boseman wanted, I'm now taking you to what Ryan Coogler said in the Hollywood Reporter interview when he was talking about how the original script was going to be a character study into T'Challa. You know, the same character studies that we had with Iron Man, that we had with Spider-Man, that we had with Captain America. Those character studies, learning who the character is, diving deep into the character. That's what we were going to be doing with the second Black Panther film. Ryan Coogler went on to say in that report, he was explaining that Black Panther sequel was originally a much more intimate focused story on Boseman's T'Challa. Following his death in 2020, however, Marvel decided against recasting the character, and Coogler co-writer Joe Robert Cole instead wrote a different script. The script rewrote, this is Ryan Coogler speaking, the script rewrote before Chadwick passed was very much rooted in T'Challa's perspective. It was a massive movie, but also simultaneously a character study that delved deeply into the psyche and situation. That sounds, again, just a brief synopsis, sounds so much better than, hey, the first 15 minutes of this film, you're going to watch us kill a character, a superhero that you've all come to love, or some of you that have loved this character since he's been on shelves. And for those of you that were introduced to the character in the MCU, well, tough shit, we're going to kill him and we're going to make you pay for it. You're going to watch it and you're going to cry throughout the entire film because we're not giving you one death, we're giving you two deaths because we're going to kill his mother later on in the film. There was so much black death in the film, unnecessary death in the film. It didn't have to happen. This was the better route. What Chadwick wanted, the psyche, diving into the situation, delving deeper into the character, that would have been such a better story. And again, I can hear you in the comments. How were they going to give that story if Chadwick Boseman was, if he passed away? No one in the recast crowd said T'Challa had to be in Wakanda forever. All we simply said was, please, please, for the love of God, don't kill him. Don't kill him. There's anything you can do, but just don't kill him. The same way you just took fucking Rhodey and Secret Invasion and told us that the Rhodey we've been on this adventure with in the MCU ain't Rhodey. It's been a scroll. Same fucking thing you could have done with T'Challa, because we are telling the Secret Invasion story, are we not? We do know how Secret Invasion went in Wakanda, do we not? If you picked up the comics, you know how that story goes, right? That could have been a scroll in the casket. T'Challa could have been anywhere. Any type of story. That's just one scenario, but there's many type of things that they could have done. And then the last thing here. I'm sorry, I think that was the last thing. Yes, that was the last thing that was given to me from the source. So if any of these things are to be believed, if we are to truly believe any of these, you know, as like I always say, like any of these rumors that come either from My Time to Shine Hello, Can We Get Some Toast, Rejected Scooper, Geeky Cast, or Daniel RPK, any of them, take it with a massive grain of salt. Until it comes from Marvel Studios' mouths themselves. As I've even said, when it comes to the recasting of T'Challa, Marvel has not said anything that indicates that they want to recast T'Challa. And if there truly is a secret mandate in place at Marvel Studios put on by Bob Iger to recast the character at some point in time, probably hastily, with Secret Wars coming up and the multiversal saga playing out right now, it does make sense. It could be something we could see. I am 50-50 on it until Marvel. It did give me an adrenaline rush earlier today. It did give me that, you know, that small sliver of hope that, man, he might be back. He might come back on the screen and they might be able to turn this fucking dumpster fire around. But as always, question is for you guys. Let me know down below if you truly believe any of these rumors, if these rumors get you excited. And I hope that they do give the recast crowd hope, because it did give me hope. It did give me hope that, man, he actually might be back. But I want to know what you guys are thinking. Let me know down below in the comments what you think about these rumors. Is this something that you would want to see for Black Panther 3? Would you want to see Damson Idris? Would you want to see him brought in with Storm through the multiverse? Or what would be the way that you would bring T'Challa back in? But the main thing is, he might be back in. And that's what's important. So recast T'Challa, like, subscribe, share with your friends, and I will see all of you guys in the next video. Peace out.
Save T'Challa, we need a recast. Chat would agree, and I truly believe that. Stories untold, I pray that we get to unfold. Don't kill him, we don't need to see that. A black man is king, I think that is crucial. If not for the grown-ups, the kids should move you. Representation, let it multiply. Stop telling the stories, how legacies die. We can explore the world of Wakanda by addition and not replacement. 1.3 billion, how is that? And I'm making a statement. Being pigeonholed to a role like there could be only one is deflating. Man, it's a mindset that ain't died yet, cause of lack of seeing our faces. Shuri can be the queen of the nation. Women should feast, we want elevation. Now wouldn't it be dope if they rose up together without doing something as cold as erasing them? We got respect for Ryan and Nate. They doing their best, they stuck in the middle, but I hope they think about what is at stake. Don't rush it, but please let the saga continue. Doubling down on Black Death is a trope we no longer want to handle. Wakanda forever, T'Challa forever. It's never been about the mantle. What is we saying? This ain't about Phantom and getting my way. It's all for the love, it's not for the hate. No matter what people are trying to say, we cast T'Challa. We cast T'Challa.